Hello there, my name's Scott. Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Vamo V4, which I received from www.charliesvapeshop.co.uk. Before I start, I must point out I did receive it free of charge for the purpose of conducting a review, but my opinion of the product remained true, honest and accurate as always. Now, I have in fact already reviewed the Vamo when it first originally came out, which seems like quite a long time ago now. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the Vamo V4. I'm just going to sort of try and concentrate on the updates and the changes to it. Okay, so let's go straight ahead and show in a bit more detail. Okay, so here I have the Vamo V4, and as far as I can tell, this is the chrome plated version. A stainless steel version is available. I think it's about £5 extra, but going by the general sort of weight and feel of it, I believe this is the chrome plated version. Now, like I said, I have already reviewed the Vamo, the V1, so I don't want to spend too much time going into sort of too much depth with the V4. But what I'm going to do is go through some of the main features, then I'll go through some of the updates or the changes compared to the V1, and then finally I will go through the menu system. Okay then, so starting at the top, it uses a 510 atomizer connector, so that means it's going to be compatible with all your 510 atomizers. And as you can see, you've got this quite deep well going around the outside, and this allows you to screw on things like ego skirted atomizers without the need for any sort of adapters. On the side, you're going to find an OLED screen which will give you visual information, and below that a power up and power down button, which are used to increase or decrease the wattage or voltage depending on what mode you got it set to. They're also used to navigate your way around the menu system, and by pressing and holding each one down, it'll also bring up relevant information with regards to the resistance of your atomizer and how much battery life your battery has left. Just below that, you're going to find your main power button, and this is what you're going to press and hold down each time you want to have a vape. The body is made up of two tubes, and this allows you to use the Vamo in a short mode with a single 18350 battery, or if you join the two tubes together, this will then allow you to use a single 18650 battery, which will obviously give you a far better battery life but will increase the overall length. And if you wanted to, you could use two stacked 18350 batteries, but for me personally, I prefer to use a single battery on its own. Now, I do need to point out you will need to use a AWIMR battery or a high drain battery. If you start using protected batteries, you're going to experience problems with regards to the amp limit side of things. And also, because the Vamo has its own built-in protection, sometimes they will sort of come in conflict with the protection of the battery. And then finally, right on the very bottom, you will find a ventilation hole. So if you was very unfortunate and had a battery venting gases, then those gases do have a means to escape. Okay, so it's been quite a while since I reviewed the original Vamo, so my memory of it may be a little bit on the hazy side, but what I'm going to try and do now is just go through some of the updates and improvements that can now be found on the V4. Overall build quality hasn't really changed. It's adequate, you know, it's a cheap item, and it is a case of you getting what you pay for. I mean, like, it's not brilliant build quality, but it's certainly adequate. You know, the parts screwed together nice and smoothly, a little bit of a sort of squeakiness to it, but nothing sort of too bad, but again, nothing sort of too fantastic either. The first thing that I noticed when taking it out of the box was that the screen had been changed. On the original Vamo, it had like a backlit LCD screen, whereas now it has this quite sharp looking OLED screen, and it gives it a far nicer sort of overall look, plus it displays the information really nice and clearly. Below that you have the buttons, and on the original Vamo these were made out of like a sort of white rubber, whereas now they're metallic. Again, it gives the overall look a far nicer look, but I will say though that the main power button is very rattly, it's quite loose in there. I don't know if you can hear that at all, and like I said, it is very rattly, and it does sort of you know, detract from it a little bit. The chip inside has been changed. Now, the original Vamo got quite a good sort of reputation for being quite accurate with its voltage output and its variable wattage output. I've got no way of testing it, but I'm going to assume that as this is a updated chip, it should be just as good, if not better. And then finally, the last thing that I noticed was that the spring in the end cap has been greatly improved. Okay, so what I'm going to do now then is just very quickly go through some of the menu settings and some of the extra functions. Okay, so to turn the Vamo on or off, you need to tap the power button quickly 5 times. Holding down the left-hand button will let you know how much battery life you have left. And holding down the right-hand button will let you know the resistance of your atomizer. To enter the menu system, you're going to press and hold down both buttons together. Once you have entered the menu system, you can press the right hand button to cycle your way through the 3 different menu options. Once you're on the menu that you want, you can then press the left button to select it, and then press the left button again to cycle through the sub menu. And once you're on the setting that you wish to choose, take your finger off and it will then store it. Menu 1 lets you decide if you want the Vamo to be a variable voltage device or a variable wattage device, and personally I would recommend leaving it in variable wattage. Menu 2 allows you to decide what information you want to appear on the screen each time you press down the main button to have a vape, and you can choose between having the voltage remaining in your battery, the current power or voltage setting that you've got the Vamo set to, or the resistance of your atomizer. And the third menu option simply lets you decide if you want to turn the screen on or off. So if you'd rather not have any information being displayed on the screen, you can do so by selecting no. Okay then guys, well that is the Vamo V4. Like I said, I don't want to spend sort of too much time on it because I have reviewed the Vamo in the past. So I think I've sort of covered the basics there. Okay then, so let's go ahead, see what it vape's like. Okay, so that was the Vamo V4, and what I'll do now is go ahead and show in action. So I've got it set up in the smaller mode with the 18350 battery. I'm using a mini BCC sort of tank atomizer, which has been filled up with some 18mg strength tobacco flavoured e-liquid. It's just a PG e-liquid. The resistance of the atomizer head is 2.4 ohms, and I've currently got the Vamo set to 9 watts. Okay, so this is the Vamo V4. As you can see, like vaporizer, getting plenty of vapour, but like I always say, just bear in mind that the amount of vapour production you're going to get will be totally down to what sort of setup you're using with regards to the type of atomizer, the type of resistance, the type of e-liquid, and in this case what sort of voltage or wattage you've got the Vamo set to as well. But nevertheless, with the setup I've got here, getting plenty of vapour, flavour and throw hit. Okay, so just for the benefit of any complete beginners who are watching who have never heard of variable voltage or variable wattage, I just want to try and give you a very quick and very sort of simplified explanation of what they are. Now, in variable voltage mode, you're going to have to sort of manually adjust the voltage to suit the resistance of your atomizer, whereas in variable wattage mode, it will recognise the resistance of your atomizer and then automatically adjust the voltage to give you that sort of same power or wattage output. So to cut a very long story short, in variable voltage mode, you need to manually adjust the voltage to suit the resistance of the atomizer. In variable wattage mode, it does it all for you. And that's why I prefer personally to use variable wattage rather than variable voltage. Now, as I've already sort of stated a couple of times, I have already reviewed the Vamo in the past, so I don't want to spend sort of too much time talking about it. Now, when the original Vamo came out, it had what I class as quite a big sort of wow factor. Not because of the like the build quality or anything like that, but because it was a very cheap device that offered something that only expensive devices on the market actually sort of could give you, basically. I think at the time, there was only one real variable wattage device, and that was the Darwin, which has a really good reputation, but it's quite a high priced item. I think they're around sort of £150, something like that. And I think the other thing that might have been around at the time was a thing called a kick, which is made by the same company as the Darwin, but it's not an actual device. It's like a little sort of drop-in module for mechanical devices, which does give you variable wattage, but it's not an actual sort of device as such. So when the Vamo came on the market, and it was something that was around, depending on where you purchased it, between sort of 30 and 40 pounds, and it offered you variable voltage, variable wattage. You could press a button and find out what resistance your atomizer was. You could press a button and find out how much battery life you had left. You know, for that sort of price range, it was absolutely fantastic. So it really did have that sort of wow factor to it. Now, obviously, this is the Vamo V4, and for me personally, it has sort of lost that wow factor simply because, you know, over the time that's passed since the V1, there has been other sort of variable wattage options that have come out, which have been sort of quite cheaply priced as well. So in that sort of sense, it's lost that sort of wow factor. But having said that, for me personally, the Vamo is still probably one of the best sort of value for money variable wattage devices on the market in terms of the like the price compared to sort of functions, you know. And I can't really think of anything that is in the same price range that is as good as the Vamo, which can give you all the variable wattage and variable voltage and all the other sort of little options that I just mentioned earlier. There are some that are slightly more expensive that do give you all like the variable wattage sort of modes and what have you, and are also a better quality in terms of build quality. They do feel a lot more sort of substantial in the hand, let's put it that way. But in terms of price range, the Vamo for me is still going to be the top dog basically. So just to sort of summarise the updates or the improvements that I've noticed since the V1. For starters, the screen on the original one is like a sort of a backlit blue coloured sort of LCD screen, which, you know, done the job perfectly well, but the new OLED screens definitely look a lot sharper. The buttons have been changed to these sort of metal buttons. On the original one there was like little white sort of rubber buttons, which again done the job perfectly well, but the metal buttons definitely look a lot nicer. Only thing I don't like about these buttons though, you know, it's, I don't know if you can hear that or not, the actual sort of main operating button is very loose in there, so it's got that horrible sort of rattly sound, but nevertheless, looks wise, it definitely looks like a big improvement. The spring in the end caps has obviously been improved again, and also the chip inside, which obviously does all your variable voltage and variable wattage, that's been updated as well since the V1. Now, I don't have all these sort of equipment to be able to test, you know, how accurate it is, but I do know that the Vamo V1 had a very good reputation for being quite accurate. So if this is a updated and improved chip, then in my mind it's got to be at least as good as the V1, if not better. So I feel very confident in saying that if you set your Vamo to 10 watts, for example, then 10 watts is what you're going to get. So, you know, in summary, the Vamo, for the price, is a fantastic, fantastic little device. You know, you've got variable wattage, you've got variable voltage. You can press a button, find out how to talk, find out how much battery life you got left. You can press a button, find out what resistance your atomizer is. You got the flat top, so it looks quite good with your sort of car atomizer tanks and your Genesis style atomizers. You got the smaller mode, which is what I prefer. It makes it a little bit more sort of nicer to hold and in your hand, and also I think it looks a little bit nicer being a little bit more sort of compact. Or if you want a longer battery life, you can add on the extension and have the 18650 battery in there. You know, there's a lot of positives about the Vamo, and the only sort of slight negative I've got is that it doesn't feel particularly like you're holding a high quality item. But bear in mind, it's a low priced item, so the quality sort of reflects the price. So, you know, if you don't go in thinking, oh, I want this to be the most amazing sort of high quality item I've ever purchased, then you're not going to be disappointed. If you go in with the thought process of it's a cheap item, I'm going to get what I pay for, but you're getting an absolute sort of ton of functionality, and also a very sort of reliable device as well from my experience of using the Vamos, then I think you're going to be very, very happy with it. I'm really not too sure what else I can say. I want to try and keep the video as short as possible because I have already reviewed the Vamo in the past, so I think I'll probably leave it there. Okay guys, well if you do fancy trying these out for yourself, go along to www.charliesvapeShop.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching. Also come along and visit my website at www.e-cigreviews.com, and that's e-cig-reviews.com. Cheers guys, happy vaping, see you later.